and for Winnipeg fans, but another small market, Quebec City, is finally enjoying a winner. Fans of the Quebec Nordiques have seen their team rise to the top of their division. They're hoping for the first time ever that their Nordique will win the Stanley Cup. But money problems are nagging this team too, and this crack at the Stanley Cup might be their last. Could this season be their last hurrah? Here's Kevin Tibbles with the story.
Hockey. It echoes up from the asphalt. They say it's in our blood, supposed to be our game. For Canadian kids, the trip from the working-class driveway to the big rink down the road is a dream that can still come true. In Quebec, the big rinks the Collies say, and the Nordiques have been in the NHL since 1978. But it's all now in jeopardy.
Go again, dump it back. Here we go.
The Nordiques are the perennial underdogs, the poor cousins of the Montreal Canadiens from down the block. Out of the playoffs more often than in, but not this year. This year, the team's finished first in its division, eclipsing the now fallen Habs. The heart supplied by Wendell Clark. The skill, the quiet superstar Joe Sakic. The team is French, English, Swedish, Russian, and more. On-ice communications by instinct. Off the ice, it's not so easy.
Remember my nose broken? Yeah. Clinic, give me a receipt. I pay. Or Nordic.
That's what Valery Kaminsky finds out when trying to pay the bills for his broken nose.
Quebec card. Click. You know.
Use your health care card, the trainer tells him.
Nordic will pay.
Which is a tremendous job.
In this town, the Nordiques have always been loved. Even when losing, this group of fans kept the faith. And this year, as they head into the playoffs, fans like Eugene Barassa are confident, even giddy.
It all began with the hiring of Pierre Lacroix at the top, who in turn hired Mark Crawford. And then they got together, I suppose, and they went and got Wonder Clark, not Wendell, Wonder Clark. I call him Wonder Clark. He's quite a man. He's a team man.
He's a leader.
He's a leader.
On the ice, off the ice.
Wonder Clark. And no matter where he plays his hockey, be it here, Timbuktu, he's in Quebec, he plays for Quebec, he plays with his heart.
He loves the game.
Wonder Clark. Ah, what a guy.
Wendell Clark's a 28-year-old Saskatchewan farm boy who is credited with pulling this team up by its bootstraps.
Stanley Cup playoffs on TSN. Our game rocks. Nice. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Good luck.
He says his work ethic is as simple as his roots. Show up on time, give it your all. People say the other players take notice and, in turn, fall in line. Clark was the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs and the darling of the Toronto fans. But he was abandoned after 9 seasons and traded to the then bottom dwellers in Quebec.
I didn't think it would happen. But played there 9 years, and you just, get up and leave. That's the longest I ever spent in one place, 9 years.
Except at home, of course.
No, I left home at 13. And then for 2 years, every 2 years, I was in a different town playing hockey. So basically, since my first 13 years, it was the longest I spent in one spot. So.
But unlike some other marquee players, Eric Lindros for one, Clark didn't complain about coming here. He stayed positive.
I'm very fortunate to be in the league. I think if you look at the number of players that don't get a chance to ever play in the National Hockey League level and would play in any team anywhere, I don't think you should have to be fussy about where you're going to play.
Adam, hit the far D. Hit the far D for crying out loud.
The Nordiques' dramatic turnaround continued with the addition of 34-year-old Mark Crawford as coach, the youngest coach in the NHL. All of a sudden, a talented team that didn't want to play in the past
Adam,
was falling in line.
and you're not concentrating. I mean, that's a bunch of bullshit. You're fatigued. You're not fatigued. You're just not working at it. Well, I mean, you can't use this as an excuse. You got to be ready, and it's all It's always concentration with you. You concentrate, then you're going to be fine. You're going to be very effective for us. If you lack concentration, then that's when it's going to hurt us. Obviously, the lessons that they've learned in the past are hopefully lessons that they've learned well, and they're things that we're not going to allow to happen again. I think the guys believe a great deal in themselves. I think there's a good deal of character on the team, and when you have those types of attributes, you're going to be able to overcome some adversity and maybe deal with the problems that maybe they weren't quite capable of dealing with before.
For Joe Sakic, the team's top player, the winning ways were a pleasant change to the years in the pro hockey hinterlands.
Well, it was frustrating the first few years. Every night we're expected to lose, and most nights we did. So, it was tough on the pride, I guess, and everybody in the dressing rooms. But every year we got better and better, and here we are today. So I guess all those years of being bad paid off.
If this year's version of the Nordiques do pull off their Cinderella story and do win the Stanley Cup, it'll only be the second time a team from Quebec City has managed to do so. Way back in 1912, 83 years ago, 2 years before the First World War, the Quebec Bulldogs walked away with the now fabled trophy. But the Bulldogs did something else too. They kept on walking. At the end of the season, the team packed up and left town. A bitter irony for the supporters of the present-day club, because that's exactly what the Nordiques are threatening to do at the end of this season. It's not that they aren't selling enough tickets, it's something else. Quebec City is the smallest of the small market teams in the 26-team NHL. The rink, the Colisée, was built in the 1940s and cannot generate the kind of money needed to support NHL hockey. No luxury boxes to attract high-rolling corporate sponsors, no streamlined concession booths to turn poutine into profit. And what's worse for the Nordiques, no huge television contract. The Nordiques communications director is Jean Martineau.
The owners are willing to lose $10 million this year, but the projections for the 95-96 seasons are that we're going to lose between 12 and 14 million. So in a very short while, this enterprise is going to go bankrupt if it doesn't have any help.
The Nordiques want the government to approve the opening of a casino that in turn would hopefully finance the building of a new arena. Otherwise, the team could move to Denver. But in the political arena, the idea has so far been snubbed, especially by this man. Quebec City's mayor is Jean-Paul Lallier. He maintains it's not up to cities or taxpayers to bail out pro hockey, so if the NHL leaves his city, so be it.
Cities by themselves cannot save these clubs. Cities by themselves cannot control salaries. But one thing is sure, we have equipment, we'll keep this equipment. We have hockey fans, we'll still have them. If that kind of hockey cannot play here, there will be some other hockey being played.
But try telling that to La Presse sports writer Régent Tremblay, who calls the Quebec mayor a gravedigger. For Tremblay, hockey isn't just a business, it's culture. And if the team goes, it's gone for good.
You know what made me really pissed off? It's the fact that at least we should fight. Quebec City, the people, the leaders, I mean, as a society, at least we should fight. Really give a damn good fight. If that doesn't work, fine. But in 2 weeks from now, we could learn that Quebec lost its team. And I know that I can go in the mayor's office in Quebec City and say to Mr. Lallier, you didn't fight.
Many of the fans are fighting. They're getting people to sign a petition asking the team to stay. The team has fought its way into a first-place finish in its division. But they'll all now enter the playoffs with the knowledge that whatever happens, it may be too late.
Can you imagine if they ever win the Stanley Cup, July the 1st, Canada Day, they will have a huge parade on La Grande Allée in Quebec, on U-Haul trucks ready to move to Denver.
As the faithful stream out after another victory on the ice, they know the future of their team is out of their hands. And even with a Stanley Cup in the offing, it still looks pretty dark out there. For Primetime News, I'm